Alright, what is up, guys? So, movement speed meta. That's what I wanted to talk about today. Locke, this is for you, bro. So, basically, there's been a very, I think, hot debate on how beneficial the movement speed meta has been, or the movement speed additions have been, to combat the movement speed meta, who they affect the most, who they benefit the most, who they hurt the most. And I think, at first glance, the initial opinion is, oh, well, obviously, melee characters are going to benefit the most from this, right? Because you can build more move speed now, and that allows you to catch up to range characters which previously you were unable to do normally. Because like let's say like even before this wipe, like last wipes, things like that, warlocks, wizards, sorcerers, even rangers were all able to build 310, 315, 320 move speed with relative ease. Even going as far as warlocks, being like 320 move speed book out, wizards doing the same thing. And now, because before, fighters usually weren't like able to do that, barbs could do that with some efforts. Rogues could always do it. Bards could do it to an extent. And like other classes in general, things like cleric, frontline warlock, the Bachlock or demon lock or whatever. Maybe I'm forgetting some other classes that are worth mentioning here. I don't know. But anyways, so like generally like the melee characters, not including rogue, weren't usually able to build that much movement speed, while the ranged characters all have been able to, because they don't really need to invest in that many other stats. So the initial impression is obviously, like I said, melee characters being the biggest benefiters of this movement speed increase. And while I'm not going to sit here and say it's bad for them, because objectively speaking, that's not necessarily true. And, anybody getting access to something they didn't have before is obviously going to be better. However, there are some very, very major issues with the movement speed changes. So, just as a baseline, let's go ahead and establish a few things, right? So, it is absolutely possible to get incredibly high move speed in a very tanky kit. You see this kit I have on here. Dark Cuirass, Hound Skull, Plate Pants, no like loose trousers, light foots on in this kit. I'm 326 move speed. I'm 326 move speed, I'm 188 health, I'm 60.5% PDR, 19% MR, 21% fist power, right? This is a very good kit. I will not deny that. And I think that if this were the norm, yes, I do think melee characters would benefit the most. However, to look at this and see what I had to do to get this much move speed. So unique Hound Skull, nothing here. So movement speed here. This isn't max roll, keep in mind, so this could be higher. This could be 330 effectively. Unique with movement speed here, so 5% move speed on a unique here. Movement speed on my cloak. Agi on my ring. Agi and movement, or sorry, not Agi, just movement speed on my vitality ring. Agi and movement speed on my gloves. Plus all and movement speed on my pants. Once again, low roll because this is gemmed, so it could be higher. And then unique boots with also having move speed on them. So if you were to take into account the fact that like let's say I don't have uniques on at all, right? This would be about 2% lower, which is 6 move speed. And this right here would be about 3% lower, which is around 9 move speed. And then you round things up, like, you get move speed on every single piece of gear. And overall, this kit would be somewhere, like, if it was literally perfect rolled with max move speed rolls, this kit would end up being about 320 move speed, I believe. Maybe, like, 323. In absolute perfect items. And now, like I said, a lot of people are like, oh my god, that's so broken. Well, the thing is that you have to consider is, well, yes, that is very high move speed. You do have to then remember I have to pull out my weapons. And yes, these have move speed on them because I feel like they need to in a kit like this. But even with this having 8 additional move speed, and this effectively only being a -2 move speed lantern shield, with my Warhammer out, this is still -22 move speed, which would still put me at just about 300, slightly above. And while, yes, sprint does get me to 330 with my weapons out, keep in mind, that is only for a limited duration. And so here is where we get into like the very important part of this entire debate. How do you catch someone if you are both running at the same speed, right? Like I'm sure we all remember our math classes of if this is going if this is going this speed, like when does it reach this destination? If you have two things that are equally distant from each other, moving at the exact same speed, in the same direction, they will never meet, right? Like they will always stay the exact same distance away from each other. That is how that works. So if I pop my sprint on fighter or barbarian and I hit rage or whatever, or like Allegro and bard, whatever you want to consider, and I go to 330 movement speed, and you on whatever class you are on are already 330 movement speed, and I run at you, I can't catch you unless you run into a dead end or, you know, something like that, I physically have no way of catching you because I cannot go any faster. We are both at the maximum amount of movement speed, so if I am not already in the range to hit you, as long as you just hold W key away from me, I will never catch you. And like I said, this is only for the duration of my sprint, because in a kit like this, once again, I mean, yes, you could, like, and don't get me wrong, I know there are kits out there, I know you can be 330 with your weapon out, you know, without sprint or anything like that, I know it is possible. The problem is, to do that, it is just overall ends up not being worth it, because the rest of the stats you have to give up to do that make your kit so much worse. Or you have to be in literal, like, god rolled items. Like, you would have to have, like, another, like, these would have to be, like, unique with move speed, and you'd need, like, a move speed on your weapon or something like that, right? And like I said, I'm gonna get into that in a minute here. But anyways, so I will physically never be able to catch up with you. And then whenever my sprint runs out, I am now also, I end up being slower than you in a kit like this, right? Because once again, this is an insane kit. No one's going to look at this and disagree, right? Like, that's just not possible. I am now slower than you, and you were 330. So therefore, now you can run from me, you can kite me, you can do whatever you want, and I don't really have any agency to do it. Because that is the problem with this game and movement speed in general, is in games like, especially like this one, I mean, there are others, but in a game like this, whenever you are faster than someone, you have two options. It is hit them with a ranged weapon, or do like things like play corners, play doorways, and hope they mess up. If they do not, or, you don't have access to range, or, whatever, they just have better range damage than you, whatever it may be, generally speaking, your agency over the fight is almost non-existent. You have no way to play the fight that isn't them kind of leading you around like a dog on a leash, quite frankly. So, the problem with movement speed that I'm getting at here towards the end, of like the whole argument of like, talking about, oh, I'm really fast in this kit, it doesn't matter, is inherently casters, because I mean, casters are the biggest ones, right? Like, rangers are offenders of this, but casters are the biggest ones. Casters inherently have always been faster because they are able to build, like, they build move speed regardless, right? They can go for the loose trousers, they can go for the Lightfoots and stuff like that, because they don't really need to build other stats. Warlock, Wizard, both of them are big ones. Like, you don't need to build necessarily basic raw stats. Like Fighter and Barbarian, or even Cleric, you have to build like, a level of tankiness, because if you don't, you're just going to die, you're never going to make it into melee, or when you do make it into melee, you're going to end up being weaker. But these classes have always been faster, because like I said, they build the light armor, because that's just what they do. And one of the biggest things is Spellbook. I've talked about this a lot. Spellbook is only minus 10 move speed. And it's a two-handed weapon, so you can roll move speed on it. So you can roll up to 6%, or sorry, not 6%. You can roll up to 2% movement speed on a spellbook, which is 6 flat move speed, which makes your spellbook minus 4 move speed. This is without uniques. This is just a normal spellbook that you can roll, right? So the percentage of move speed gain to move speed lost for like spellbook is just insane value for obvious reasons. Rolling 6 on only a minus 10 weapon is insane. So even if you are even if you're not over cap move speed, if you're just 330, at like, that's what your move speed is, you're not like actually 350, you're just over. With a good rolled spellbook, you can be like 324, 325 with your weapon out. And then if you put your weapon up, you're back to 330, and it's back to, like I said, where you can't be caught. Then moving on, because, you can make the argument of, oh, well, if you guys are both the same move speed, can't you just kind of run at them forever and eventually run them into a dead end? Well, the problem with that is, I mean, obviously, other than door and door, where, it's just run, open door, close door, run to the next door, and, so on and so forth, like that. The issue then becomes, so they don't have to invest as many points into move speed as before, right? That's just because move speed is more abundant. You can get rolls like, like you get like uniques, you can get like 2% on like, or let me see, do I have any around here maybe? You can get like 2% on like chest, legs, necklace, stuff like that. I don't think I have any, actually. Well, I mean, I have 1.1% here, but you guys know what I mean. But like I said, movement speed is just way more common and way easier to build. So now, before when they were going for those loose trousers Lightfoots, maybe they don't have to anymore. Maybe they can go for like the heavy leather leggings. They can go for like rugged boots. You can go for, I mean, I don't know, I guess you're probably not changing your necklace, but, you can go for these heavier pieces of armor, and you don't have to build for the light ones anymore, because you can go for the heavier pieces and just go for movement speed rolls, and you're still fine. And what I want to show about this, in this, like, talking about this, is this kit. This is a, Lock with this one right here, this is for you, bro. This is a wizard kit, that I built by Apollo, pretty early on this wipe. And as I'm sure you guys can see, there's something very specific about it that's really, really good. Okay, 159 health. Yeah, that's pretty good. 317 move speed. Wow, it's actually kind of slow. Oh, wait, what is this? 63% physical damage reduction. I mean, that's pretty good. And like I said, and keep in mind, like 317 might look really, really slow, but don't forget what I just said. Only a -4 movement speed book. So this is still like 313 move speed when he pulls his book out, assuming it's, you get a 2% movement speed book roll, right? Which isn't really that hard. And like I mean, this is the thing. This is the issue I'm trying to get at. Because they don't have to build so much movement speed, because movement speed is easier to get and you don't have to invest all into building all this light armor, you can invest your points into other stats. You can go for 63% physical damage reduction wizard with 160 health. So then the problem becomes, oh, okay, I closed the distance on this guy, I got into melee range, now how do I kill him? Right? Like, how do I kill a 160 health wizard that is 63% PDR? And keep in mind, oh, I guess you guys can't see this, hold on, I got you. Keep in mind, he still has 34% magic power and 8 true damage because he has a Phoenix Choker on, right? Like, he can still kill me, but I can't kill him. And this is the case for a lot of classes. Like, Rangers can build more PDR, Wizards can, Warlocks can be tankier. I mean, Warlocks aren't the biggest ones about this because Warlocks don't have as much damage as like a Ranger or a Wizard does. But they become just that much harder to kill. And the issue is no longer, oh, I can't get into melee range, just kite me forever. It's I get into melee range and I still can't kill them, right? And that is where the issue lies. Now, moving on into a little bit of a different topic. So now, the issue with movement speed is it used to just be, oh, range classes would outrun me, right? Like, oh, if I'm not fast enough, I can't ever catch them, they can kite me around, whatever. Now that's not the case. Now it is everyone can outrun me. So now what you are forced to do is you have to build movement speed on every single piece of gear to try to keep up. Like before, it's like, okay, if I was running like 290, 300 move speed on a kit, like whatever, right? It wasn't the biggest deal because most other, at least melee classes, were running similar speeds, maybe very slightly faster, but it wasn't anything ridiculous. Now, every class in this game, because I mean, I've been playing a lot of solos recently, almost every single geared person in this game I run into is minimum 320 move speed. If you are not, like, genuinely, I've got to the point where I feel like 315 is about the bare minimum I need to play solos. And to get that much move speed on a decent kit, you literally have to roll movement speed on every single piece of gear to keep up. This isn't even just the 2% on your chest, legs, and necklace. This is 2% there, and then you have to get like 3 add or 1% on every other piece, or you just genuinely cannot keep up with these other classes. I mean, and that's the problem. It's like, okay, well, if I'm gonna build like a crazy like full quad world legendary / uniques, I can do that, fine, whatever. But how often are people gonna do that, right? I mean, it's funny, I actually said this at the beginning of this wipe. I said movement speed was gonna become the new plus all, and it has. Last wipe, it was, oh, you don't have plus all in your jewelry? GG. Like, I mean, you're down, right? Like, that's a pretty big disadvantage for you because you're missing out on a lot of stats. And now it's like, oh, you don't have movement speed on all your gear? Guess what? You can't even play the game. Like, you can't. Unless you are going to sit there and just shoot your ranged weapon, you will never get to play the game. And the problem becomes, even if you can win the fight, you can't ever kill anyone because they can just run away from you. It's the same kind of logic that there is with Druid, where, oh, this guy, he can just always disengage because he has so much mobility. Well, now everybody has that. And the problem becomes, okay, well, let's say, hypothetically, all right, I'm going to do that. I'm going to build movement speed on every single piece of gear. Now, let's say I'm in purples, right? Okay, well, at least one of my 3 rolls on my items is movement speed on every single piece. So I am just playing down a roll. Whereas other classes that are inherently faster don't have to do that. So they have just more stats to play with. And, like, that's just, it ends up being bad, right? Because the thing is, it's like, you're not even building this to have an advantage. You are building this to attempt to level the playing field, which you were inherently still disadvantaged on. Because even when you get that 320, 325, even 330 movement speed, people still just, they outrun you, right? Because the problem in this game is there is no way to, once that cap is set at 330, you cannot exceed it in any way. So even if you get to 330, you can't kill people because they are also 330. And so then, like I said, it literally becomes a cycle of, I run to this door, I open the door, I close the door, the person behind me runs to it, open, close, next door, open, close, next door, open, close. And it is just like the Benny Hill theme, dun, 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 or like some Scooby-Doo shit where you just run and you chase somebody that you can never catch. You are just locked in a cycle of running around, never being able to catch the person you're chasing ever. And that is the game we play. And that is best case scenario. Like I said, worst case scenario is you have no movement speed whatsoever, they're faster than you, and they will outrun you. And that is just how it goes. And, you know, that's life. And like I said, the problem ends up being where these casters, they could very easily build to be 330 with their weapons out, because like I said, only -6 movement speed weapon, not really that hard to do. But you cannot do that unless you are going to sacrifice a majority of your stats, and even when you do, like I said, it is still bad. Because the thing is, they are able to do damage while being 330 book out a lot easier than you are. Like, when you pull your weapons out to swing, generally they are going to get away from you, even if you are 330, because you had to get to them in one way. And most of the time, by the time you get to them, they're going to have killed you, or they're going to have done enough damage that you then die to a 63% PDR wizard in melee. But for now, that is going to wrap it up for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. And, I mean, you know, if some of you out there disagree, that is fine. I don't really care. That's life. I don't expect everybody to agree with me. But yeah, appreciate you guys for watching. And I'll catch you guys next time. Peace, peace.